So, hello and welcome back to my C++ tutorial playlist. In this video, I want to really quickly cover a short introduction to lifetimes, and for that, I've written a small class which is called lifetime, and it does have a default constructor, a copy constructor, a move constructor, destructor, copy assignment, and also a move assignment operator. And all they do is basically just print that they were called. So we have a nice overview of that. So let's take a look at some simple examples. Here we have lifetime object. So what do we expect? We are here in the scope of main. So we construct a lifetime object here. So we expect the constructor to be called, and then basically when we go out of scope here, the lifetime destructor should also be called. So let's see if that is true. And let's compile it and run it. And as we can see, the default constructor has been called, and then immediately afterwards the destructor has been called as we expected. Then let's take a look. If we introduce a new scope here, every object basically lives within a scope, and if the scope ends, then it will be destructed. So let's see how that goes. So what do we expect now? We expect the first constructor to be called here. Then we open new scope, and here we create a new lifetime object, and that is why we expect the constructor to be called of that object for that object. And then afterwards here we expect this destructor to be called, and then this destructor to be called. So the output should be a constructor, then the first destructor, and then the second destructor. So let's see if that works. And as we can see, this was also as expected. And this video should really be just a small introduction and also a motivation for the next videos. So let's get rid of this. If we want to persist something to last longer than its scope, then we need to heap allocate it. So it's not on the stack where everything is basically put on top of the stack and then popped out of the stack within that enclosing scope. So we could create a new lifetime object, and then we don't get a lifetime object, but we get a lifetime object pointer, like so. And this is really bad practice, by the way, and I will show you why that is. After we created a new pointer with new, we need to also delete it again because it's not controlled by the scope anymore, but we control it manually, so we need to delete it. So what we would see here is now we create one object, then the second one, and then we delete the first one again and then the second one again. Let's see if that works. And as we can see, it does work. However, there is something really tricky going on here. What this new allocation could do is it basically could fail and throw an exception. So if we failed to create a new lifetime, the second T2 here, then we would have already allocated memory on the heap for the T1 object, and this line would never be called, and we would leak memory. In this case, okay, it's not that bad because we are in main and the operating system would clean it up for us, but in a real application inside of a subroutine, this could really lead to problems. Also, what there often is for example something like if something, and then we maybe have an early return. And as you can see, this is really simple and we can see that something is wrong here. But if we imagine that here is more code, then something like this becomes harder and harder to spot. And as we can see right here, we would skip the deletion of the lifetime object and we would also leak memory here. So that is not a good thing. And also what's really sneaky is if there are any exceptions here, then this would also leave the regular function flow and we would never call the delete here and clean up after ourselves. And with this cliffhanger, I want to leave you here because this is a reason why many people don't use new at all anymore. And how to resolve this issue, I will show you in the next video. I hope this has been helpful, and the code for the lifetime class will be in the description, so you can play around with it yourself a little bit. And as said, this is really just a small introduction, and this will be used throughout the following videos so we can play around with lifetimes more and more. With that, thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been helpful, and I see you in the next video.